Hey, welcome back to Whitetail Garage. So I kind of got ahead. Went ahead and spent some time off camera just installing the turbo kit. I really just kind of doing a mock-up, seeing what goes where. Now, it went in pretty simple, but there are some things that I just wasn't aware of, at least for this kit, that I'm gonna have to make some modifications on. The first is the wastegate. Sits right below the, I don't know if you can see it down there, but sits right below the factory sway bar mount. That and this header rides kind of close. It's probably safe, but rides kind of close to the sway bar mount on that side. So I want to go ahead and remove both the sway bar mounts. Also, I'm gonna clean up, repaint with header paint, and then wrap the headers and crossover with exhaust wrap, the DEI, I think, exhaust wrap. This one I got. Let's see, where did it go? Oh, down in this box. The DEI exhaust wrap. So I'll work on that. But the bigger issue that I've got is, well, I wouldn't say bigger, but another issue that I've got is this is new to me, and guys, comment on this if this is normally, you've seen this before, but I have not seen a turbo kit that requires a smaller radiator so the pipe can cross between the radiator and the core support. It's just different. It's not really a problem, but I just wasn't expecting it. So when I went to put in this kit, I didn't realize, and when I bought the kit wasn't installed when I bought it. I didn't realize that this was a shorter radiator that fit in here, and therefore let this pass through the side there. So the issues that I've got here, let me see if I can get this out of the way. Right in this corner here, on the other side of this pipe, I want to take kind of that flat spot of the core support where it's spot welded. I want to take a curve out of that to allow this pipe to scoot over just a little bit, which will then allow the radiator to scoot over just a little bit. With it all the way this direction, I'm up into that curve, which I am going to try and flatten out slightly, but I don't know how much I'll be able to flatten it out. So for now, I'm going to try and scoot this over. You can kind of see that gap there. I'm going to cut that out so that'll scoot over as far as I can. If I have to reclock the turbo a little bit, I will, because that'll also help clear this gap up here, which is really close to have that much heat next to something you're trying to cool off, right? So I'm going to try and eliminate that as much as I can. And then the radiator sits really high. And so I'm hoping that if I take the stock radiator mounts out or shift it over some, I got to fiddle with it and see where I can find some room there. But that's some of the modifications I'm going to have to do to make this kit fit. So again, my plan is the headers, the downpipe, crossover tube. I'm going to go ahead and wrap all that with the DEI. That's probably not enough. I just bought the kit that comes with two 50-foot rolls. I think that'll easily cover the headers and may even cover the crossover pipe. I don't know if it'll cover the downpipe. We'll see, and if I have to, I'll buy another 25 or 50 feet and go from there. And then there is I think it was DEI, I can't remember who made it. There is somebody that also makes a heat shield for the charge tube that I can put on to kind of help protect. If this is wrapped and I've got a heat shield similar to this, but on the intake side, I think that'll help that charge air temperature. And then you can see the previous owner kind of just spray painted because they had done some welding on the pipe inside the fender. They'd done some welding and just kind of repainted it. I want to tape that off so that way at least it's a clean line between this finish and the painted finish. So I'm going to do that as well. But it's nice to kind of see what is left as far as getting the turbo on. Some other fabrication that I've got to do. So I don't remember how I had it before, but this alternator, I used to run on the driver's side, but I had it ran over here, but I had an electric pump on the last build. And so I don't remember exactly how I had it. I couldn't find any pictures, and I'm not sure if I'm missing any brackets. So what I need to do is get this to pitch that out, and to do that, to get this nice and tight, I'm going to need to build a bracket that puts this over here. So I'm going to have to fab a bracket that kind of brings that up and away. And what I'll do is have it basically bolt down to these two water pump bolts here and here. And then just bring this guy up to about there and run a bolt all the way through. And that'll allow me to tighten down that belt and run it that way. I've seen a bunch of people do it different ways. Like getting the opposite spinning water pump and then just run a grooved pulley on everything, you know, with a tensioner. That's probably the better way to do it, but it already has a water pump. And if I have to replace a water pump, I'm probably going electric rather than get any other kind of water pump. So that would cause me to have to redo all this. So the fact that I've got a working water pump, again, at least to get it started and driving, I want to work with this, and then I'll throw stuff on it as I go. But so sorry I didn't film the initial mock-up of the turbo, but now you'll get to see me tear it back down and start to do some of the mods on the core support that I need to do. I'm going to start with the radiator and work my way backwards. So just trying to get everything to fit right. So that charge tube and the radiator, just kind of moving back and forth between those two to try and get them in the right spot. And then I'll have to get everything back off, all the way down to the headers back off in order to start working on the sway bar mounts. So we'll just jump right into it. I'm going to go ahead and, since I'm going to be cutting and doing some stuff in the general area of this turbo, I'm going to go ahead and tape off the front side of this. I said I was going to start with the radiator, but I actually want to go ahead and start with the charge pipe. See if I can get that scooted over by modifying the core support right there. Looks like I have to take the radiator out. That's unfortunate. Right there's the blow-off valve. Rides underneath that frame rail, and there's really no way to get it out. I put this in when the radiator wasn't in there, so I could take the blow-off valve off if I wanted to, but I don't want to. So radiator's got to come out anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I cut in a little low, that's okay, because I wanted less than more. But this corner right here is not quite yet. So I need to kind of finish this same curve all the way around, and that should get me where I want to be. Okay, this is now hitting the bottom corner, same corner as this, but on the bottom of the bumper bracket. So I'm going to grind on that and try and just, there's not much more room I can give because the blow-off valve is up against the frame rail back here, but I want to just, anywhere that I can make room, I want to make room, and then we'll figure out where it fits most comfortably. I'm still concerned about a clearance over here on this corner. Feels like this pipe cuts too long rather than closer. I can pull it up into the right kind of area if I find a way to support it. And I don't think it's going to hit the Cervini's front bumper, but it is kind of riding up against that fender, which is going to be a noise factor if I don't figure out a way to support it. All this is like in the exact right spot. This is perfect. You know, as close as I can get. There's a decent gap all the way around, so it's not going to rattle against anything. It's in the right spot. Set right down inside. This side, no problem. The other side, it didn't quite sit as well, but I just noticed it's actually bent in a little bit. Little massaging, a little light body work. All right, so you're not really going to be able to make it out on camera, but I've got it to where it fits in both the saddles just fine. Now it is missing the isolators. I need to order some of those from LMR, but it fits in those just fine. Now the big issue is though that the higher part of the radiator, which is kind of the, let me just show you what I'm talking about. This part of the radiator right here is a little higher than this part, right? So these are sitting in the saddle, but this is still riding on the core support. Now, the isolators are going to raise that a little bit, but I don't know if they're going to raise it enough. And I've noticed on my car, I don't know if this is factory or not, but the center section of the core support is up a little higher. That's where my trusty friend comes in. Would not recommend you do this for your car, but I'm going to do it for mine. Now she's falling back to where she's supposed to be. We got it way down below. I don't know if you remember how much higher that tank stood out above it now. This actually sits flat like it's supposed to. And again, I still need the isolators in there, so that's going to give that absorption that I need, right? And you can see it's a little loose, if anything, and that's again because I need the isolators in there, so that's going to pick it up just slightly. But that gives me enough clearance for the radiator cap. So next steps. I need to get the intercooler mounted, but I also need to confirm before going any further on the intercool mount is if it will clear the Cervini's stalker front end. I need to mock the front end up now and see where that fits. So I need to get these clamps spun around and make sure they're not going to be hitting the front end. And then I got to get the front end down, which is up there wrapped in that bed sheet. But that looks like the exact right spacing down here. The intercooler fits in there quite nicely, so it doesn't require it. There's a nice gap there, but that inlet for the front bumper from the stalker, it's almost like this intercooler setup. This was meant for it, because as you can see, I mean it fits in there quite nicely. Okay, so I'm gonna get the front end off and back up into a safe place and mount the other side of the intercooler. Alright, that is a totally mounted intercooler, and it is solid as a rock. Right under here are these two fab brackets. Next steps, I got to get all the turbo system pulled back off, because now I'm going to work on getting all of the exhaust, I guess all of the plumbing I'm going to get cleaned up, painted, and then wrap the exhaust plumbing. Really excited that the front bumper fits. That's awesome. So that's going to make this whole thing a lot easier with less fabrication. So I'm going to go ahead and end it there. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.